Hello, and thanks for joining us. I'm Steve Finley, editor of Ward's Auto Dealer Business Magazine, and I cover the dealer beat for wardsauto.com. Today's webinar is entitled Connecting the Dots, Effective Online Marketing and Profitable Growth. Online merchandising, messed up the title. Our guest is Russ Daniels. He is the Senior Manager of Product Marketing for HomeNet and vAuto. He's on deck, but before we begin the program, a few words about this webinar platform. It allows you to be more involved with the presentation and watch it the way you want to watch it. Feel free to customize your webcast console. You can move windows around by dragging on the title bar or resize your windows by clicking on the lower right corner of any window. Notice the toolbar at the bottom of your console. These buttons let you open and close screen widgets. Feel free to go social. There's a Twitter widget. Also, feel free to submit questions. The more questions asked, the more you learn. We typically do a Q&A towards the end of the program, but Russ says he's more than willing to answer your questions during his presentation if you're curious about anything in particular that he's discussing at that time. If at any time you experience difficulties with the audio or advancing of the slides, just press your F5 key to refresh your webinar console. You can download the slides by clicking the folder icon on your screen. If you do this during the webinar, it won't interrupt the presentation. We appreciate your feedback, so please click on the red survey icon and complete the form. Now I would like to introduce today's presenter. Russ Daniels has a strong background in software products. He works to understand core businesses as well as unmet and unrealized market needs. He serves as the voice of the customer to understand industry trends in an effort to ultimately launch valuable and relevant new products. And with that, here's Russ.
Great. Thanks, Steve. And Wars, thanks for having me on today, and thanks to all of you for coming in and joining me, spending a little bit of time talking about online merchandising. And before I go in and I talk about that, I wanted to just level set with the group and talk about consumer expectations broadly today. And what you see on the screen is just a bunch of technologies that have come out over the last years, disruptive technologies. Some that are really familiar here are Netflix and Uber, obviously. You have Netflix, high-speed, high-quality content being streamed right into the home. And you also have Uber that disrupted the transportation space in terms of taxis and how people move around. Well, we know that, but let's start to dig in a little bit more about what happens as you start using these technologies with us all being consumers of at least one of these things. And we've all been there before when you're on Netflix and all of a sudden you get that spinning kind of loading icon when you're trying to watch a movie or a TV show. Also with Uber, when you're sitting there, I'm right around Philadelphia trying to get picked up in the city, and the Uber driver can't pinpoint your exact location. What happens today? Well, you get frustrated. Why can't the Uber app locate me exactly every time? Why can't Netflix provide this high-quality streaming content right when I need it all of the time? It's frustrating. And that shows that consumer expectations when it comes to technology are higher than they ever have been before. And I say that because we're seeing similar trends in the automotive space. And this comes from the 2017-2018 car buyer journey study that was done by Cox Automotive. And we found some really interesting things in terms of consumers and what they're doing in terms of online shopping. And you see them right here. So using our research that we did last year into early this year, we're seeing that used car shoppers today are spending fewer days in market, going to fewer websites, and overall spending less time doing research online than they did last year. Yet research online is still the number one most important thing to car shoppers, and it is the first thing they do, and also the content they get when they're searching online leads them into the dealership. So what does that tell us? That tells us that the experience needs to be personalized. Car shoppers are looking for high-quality information, and they're looking for it faster than they ever have before. And that boils right down into the merchandising space that I'm talking about and how you present your product. And in this setting, your product is going to be your inventory and how you reflect it on your website and different third-party sites, how to be able to capture those consumers faster while also having best practices to speed up your operation. So today in the automotive space, and Steve hit on it before, been in the business a little bit under a decade now, on the marketing team currently at HomeNet and vAuto and Cox Automotive. And as we move forward today and we move forward into the future, how do we want to stay innovative and profitable? 3 high-level items here. We want to increase margin and top-line revenue, not a big surprise there. We want to cut costs and increase operational efficiency. That's got a lot to do with how we merchandise and how we execute that at our dealership. And then we want to be easily adopted. We want technology that's easy to adopt with low switching costs, because we don't want to disrupt. We want to make sure we're ingraining things into our current process or knowing what works and being able to do more of that and do less of what things that aren't performing. So as I go through the presentation today, I put this in front of you because everything I'm going to be talking about online merchandising is going to be quantified. It's not only going to be quantified, but I mapped it to one or more of these 3 key pieces for dealerships to stay innovative and profitable in the space. So that leads to the presentation, connecting the dots between effective online merchandising and profitable growth. And how I'm going to attack this today is in 2 sections. We're going to look at strategies, best practices, insights around merchandising. And when I mean merchandising, I mean online speed to market, I mean photos, I mean vehicle descriptions, high-quality listings. We're going to think about what's working today, how to do that better and faster, and how to keep quality high. Because when we're searching for inventory, we don't want the Netflix loading situation to happen where we're not sending the message quickly and high quality as the consumers need it. So I'm going to spend a lot of time talking about that because I want everyone to walk away from this today with things they can go back and consider and think about. But I'm not just going to focus on trends today. We're also going to look forward. We're going to look forward into things that are coming maybe 6 to 12 months from now, and then 12 months plus. So that's what we're going to focus on today. And before I get in there, I do apologize for a little bit of the background noise. Right before I started, I'm out here next in Pennsylvania. It started downpouring. So I'll work through that, hopefully, and the Wards team will keep me honest. If it's really becoming distracting, we can kind of work through that. But I think the rain will be dying down. You'll be able to hear me okay.
Hope you aren't blowing
away.
All
right, so let's yeah, not blowing away. Unfortunately, I'm on the top floor of the building, so we're hearing the roof noise and it come down. But seems to be letting up now. But yeah, Steve, let me know if it's getting a little distracting. Can you hear me okay now, at least?
Yeah.
Okay, great. I'll get a little closer to the phone as well. So let's kick into strategies, insights, and best practices around the merchandising space happening right now. And it's broken up into 3 sections. We want to decrease time to market, we want to enhance photo quality, and we want to enhance overall listing quality. It's not just always about the photos, it's about the descriptions and the way you're talking about the cars in your copy. And we're going to hit on all 3 of those. And I think it's important starting with decreasing time to market, because the data that I'm looking at says there's still a significant lag, especially when it comes to used cars, in terms of getting cars fully merchandised and online. So let's start there. Let's start when it comes to speed to market on the used car space and some data that we're looking at. And what I wanted to do was look at purchases from auction to then having it online fully merchandised. And when I mean fully merchandised, I mean it's got a price, it's got a photo, it's got a description, it's got all the basics that we need from a merchandise perspective to make an impact on the car shopper. And I wanted to track that in terms of time. So late in 2017, I looked at about 7,000 vehicles that were bought at auction, both in-state and out-of-state. And I wanted to capture 2 key data points. I wanted to capture the time it took from them to buy the car at auction to it being booked inside of their DMS. And then after that, to fully merchandise the car, to add all of those elements I just talked about, photos, comments, pricing, etc. And this is what we found. So on average, it took 4 days to get the car from auction to the DMS, but we know when it's booked into the DMS, it doesn't have photos on it, doesn't have all the things that it needs, may have a price, may not. And then from the time it's in the DMS, it was an additional 7 days to get the car fully merchandised and online in front of car shoppers. So you're looking at an 11-day lag in terms of getting the cars from auction to online. And a similar study was done 8 years ago and found a very similar number today. So over the last 8 or so years, we're not seeing a lift in terms of speed to market in this specific segment. Now, we talked about where consumer expectations are, and they need high-quality merchandising delivered faster, so we know there's opportunities to improve given that topic, but what is it costing you? What are the quantifiable benefits? And I think the way you want to look at it is in terms of holding costs that you're incurring on that auction inventory before anybody sees the unit online. And I'll kind of tee this up from a conversation I had last year with a dealer out of Texas. And he knew his numbers, so it was just a really good way to frame up this discussion. So what you're looking at here is this dealer out of Texas, and he buys 17 cars a month at Manheim. That was an average that he had over the last 6 months, and he also knew his holding costs. And the $40 range is a default out there in the industry that NADA talks about and others. There's ways to also calculate holding costs. Not going to get into holding cost calculations, but feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to share some information I have on that. And this dealership knew their holding costs. It was $30 per day. So when you start to break that down, not in terms of total amount of holding costs from the time you buy it to when you sell it, but just holding costs before anybody sees the inventory, this dealer out of Texas, it took him 8 days, so a little bit below the average that I'm seeing, which is good. But he's incurring $4,000 a month in holding costs, and nobody's seen the inventory yet. So if we talk about those elements to stay profitable, you want to increase top line, you want to increase margin, not doing yourself a lot of favors if you have that lag incurring on costs and eating into that margin before anybody's seen it. So that's interesting enough. So what we wanted to start to think about is, how can we get that down to less than 8 days? How can we get that down to 1 day or 2 days at the most? And he put some strategies in place and actually got there. I'm going to share with you what he did. But you can see with the graphic on the right now what's happening. It's down to 1 day. And that's $600 in holding costs across all those 17 cars he buys at auction. And now he's maximizing. He's getting eyeballs earlier, and he's not bringing in those costs, those kind of sunk costs, and not getting eyeballs on the inventory, because as we know, all of that research is going to start online. So how did he do it? He came in and he started to think about this concept of merchandising the inventory and marketing the inventory while it was still en route to the dealership. And we kind of called that in-transit merchandising in our conversation. And what I have here is a listing that showcases some of the things that this dealer did. I'll call some of them out. First one is at the top. It's kind of that blue line, that blue dot right there at the top middle of the slide. It's the vehicle description. It's actually the first sentence of his vehicle description. This vehicle is en route to the dealership. Call now for more information. There's obviously more to the vehicle description than that, but that's how he's leading. He's leading with a transparent and in some states compliant message that kind of says, hey, this vehicle's not at the dealership right now, but it's en route. Call now. We'll get a test drive scheduled. So when it's there and it's through detail, we'll get you in there. So not only is he using it for transparency and compliance, he's using it as a marketing message. He's using it to create a sense of urgency so you don't miss out on this vehicle. You get the first crack at it. He's also utilizing image overlays, which is right there in the green dot right there around the top, about the top left of the slide. More photos coming soon in blue, right above the picture. This is, again, I've seen dealers do this a couple different ways. More photos coming soon, or in transit, or en route to the dealership. There's plenty of different calls to action that you can put in here. There's valuable real estate that you can put messages that are deeper than just your dealership branding and your phone number and your website. It's good to include those in image overlays, but there's other messages that you can put in. This dealer said more photos coming soon as an example. And then finally, it's all about the photos. So he's capturing a few photos of that vehicle while it's still at auction. from the condition report or from photos he's taking on his mobile device. And this is the key piece of in-transit merchandising. Outside of, we put a price on it as well, the photos are really helpful. It's helpful for a variety of different ways. It's helpful for you to show up higher in the search ratings, as a lot of classified sites will rank you based on how many photos you capture. But it also is making a true consumer impact. And we can quantify that because in the data I'm seeing, if it's not a real photo of the inventory, you're not getting the engagement you're looking for. And I don't think that's a new concept, but what might be new for a lot of you is just how much of an impact that it's making. So let's dig into that a little more and talk about photos. Let's talk about photo engagement and where that is going into 2018. And this is a part of the Power of Pictures case study that I worked on with the Cox Automotive Market Research team. Just a great piece that talks about the importance of photos. We do a little bit about video in that case study as well. But one of my favorite nuggets from that case study is what you're looking at today, where we looked at average VDP increases per listing for vehicles within these different photo scenarios you see on the left. I'm not going to go through all of them, but I'm going to walk you through some of the main ones and also just help you with this matrix altogether. So let's start at the top left. You've got a single photo, just one photo of the car. This is what the dealer in Texas I was talking about was doing. Just one photo of the car from auction versus a stock photo. If you look at both new and used in aggregate, 172% more VDP views per listing for cars with a single real photo of the car versus a stock photo. And you look at the impact there on new, not extreme as some of the others we'll talk about, but significant, a little over 40%. Really significant when it comes to used and CPO. Over 160% more VDP views for vehicles with just one real photo versus a stock photo. Huge lift in engagement by just making one little tweak to the process. And this doesn't have to be specific to auction inventory. I've been using that in the beginning, but think about trade-ins and appraisals and being able to use a photo from the appraisal or just a quick photo before it goes through detail. A lot of dealers I talk to are doing that as well, so they're not advertising the vehicle with a stock photo, and if they are, they're doing it for a very short period of time. And for anyone that doesn't know what a stock photo is, yeah, go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, well, I was going to say the stock photo is a photo that's provided of a general car, right? A generic picture of the car, like the one that's for sale. But my question was, is there the value of a stock photo is it tends to be, better lighting and more time and effort put into it. So how good of a quality picture should a non-stock photo be, and who would you recommend taking that photo at the dealership?
Yeah, those are all good questions. I think what you want to do is separate the full set of photos you might want to take after reconditioning with a short shoot of photos that you're doing before. Stock photos, yeah, they're well-staged, good lighting, but what we're seeing is car shoppers are getting more intelligent in terms of how they shop, and they want to shop for things faster, so they understand that that's not a real photo of the car. You can especially see that on used car. That's why the new car lift isn't as big, still significant in terms of the used car. So they want to see an actual photo of the car. I've seen photos right off a condition report at auction. And all of us have been to an auction, have seen the quality of those. They're not always the best for retail advertising, but they're making a lift because it's an actual photo of the vehicle. So in terms of, to answer that final part of the question, Steve, who should be taking that photo, it can vary. So if you're taking them there at auction, depending on the volume that you buy, it can be the person there purchasing the inventory. It can also be somebody like a porter back at the dealership when the car arrives taking those photos. It could be a porter as well when you take a car in off a trade. And if you have technology or processes in place where the person handling appraisal can just take 1 to 5 good photos of the exterior, and you can repurpose those appraisal photos while it gets cleaned up and frontline ready, that's a gain as well. So I would worry more about quality in terms of photo taking, which I'm actually going to go talk about now, with the full set of photos after reconditioning. Does that answer your question?
Yes, sir.
Great. So let's go there. Let's talk about the next photo scenario. Let's talk about multiple photos versus a stock photo, and that's a full set of images. If anybody's wondering, I just pulled these notes literally, or these stats right before the call, using some data, market data that I have as being a part of the HomeNet team here at Cox Automotive. What we see now is the average amount of photos on a used car today is 24, and the average amount of photos on a new car today are 18. So if we want to use that as our benchmark in terms of multiple photos, that's fair, because that is the average set of photos that we're seeing. That's what we're comparing here. And you can see the lift, and this is why I highlighted it in green. Just huge lifts. Look at it on used and CPO. Almost 350% more VDP views for a car with multiple photos versus a stock photo. And a lot of times in the new car space, very similar in terms of the stock photo and what you're actually looking at, but a full set of photos on a new car, 133% more VDP views than a vehicle with a stock photo. So talking about quality and getting the actual photo of the car on there, and it also accents speed. You don't want to wait those 11 days. You don't want to wait those 8 days. You want to get at least a single photo up there quick, come back after reconditioning and shoot a full set, which actually speaks to the third one there, the last one I'll talk to on this slide, where you can see multiple photos versus a single photo. Because I have conversations with dealers about this all the time. And they say, well, if I'm shooting some photos before recon and it doesn't have any major work done to it, does it really make sense? Do I get higher engagement if I go back and shoot a full set of photos again? And the answer from the data is yes, you do. And you see over 60% across the board in terms of going back and taking a full set of photos versus having one actual photo of the inventory. So I thought that was interesting. This is a snapshot in time. This data is less than 6 months old. But what was interesting moving forward is we had done this case study a couple years running. So now what we can do is, okay, the average VDPs per listing in these scenarios, they're big numbers, but how are they changing year over year? Which can help inform us on how consumers are viewing our inventory and what is working in terms of engagement. So you can look at the three main ones I just talked about. Single photo versus a stock photo. You see where it is today, which is in the percentage change, and you can see the increases. It's actually a 30% increase over last year, stock photo to a single photo on new car, and over 40% on used and CPO. That staggering number around multiple photos versus a stock photo, 349%, it's actually an 87% increase over last year. So just significant shifts. It's going back to car shoppers spending less time online, going to less sites, less time total in market. They want that personalized experience, and it needs to be real. You need to visualize it, make it real in the inventory, so they can get engaged and move forward with it. So we talked.
Is there such a thing as too many photos?
I think so.
What is the limit when you're just having too many photos on there, or is there a limit?
I think that's a great question. I think, I have seen dealerships go a little bit overboard with it. 65, 68 photos, capturing every little piece of the interior. I think that when you have a fully loaded truck with a lot of really good aftermarket, components to it, or just fully loaded in general, I think, going over that 24 photo range makes a lot of sense. But I think it's all about the vehicle, Steve. It's all about making that the star of the show. If there's tech and navigation and things, and we'll talk about features that consumers are looking for in just a second. If there's those top flight features, let's make sure you capture those. If it's a base kind of Corolla and you just need some exterior and some interior shots, no need to capture those 40 to 50 photos. Just capture the photos that really accent that piece of inventory.
Gotcha.
It's a good story. I bought a car maybe about 2 months ago, and I gave feedback to the dealership that the car that I bought, it was nice. It didn't have a ton of extra features, but I didn't need 65 photos like they had. 20 to 25 with a video could have helped me there. So kind of a living example of that.
Okay.
So let's now move away from the engagement side when it comes to photos. We talked a little bit about image overlays, but let's talk a little bit about photo quality. And photo quality can also speak to efficiency. When you think about putting a custom background on the photo, as you see in these examples. So I'm talking about photo backgrounding, and it's a technology that it's not new. It's been around for a little while, but it's evolved over time. And I got to tell you, in my close to 9 years in the space, wasn't a big fan of recommending this to dealerships. Obviously the technology's evolved. In the past, I had seen photo backgrounds with the vehicle on the beach or on Mars, and that is not effective marketing. I don't think that's something we want to be doing. And luckily, I'm not seeing that any longer. And as I started to look at other providers that offer this in the space, I started seeing examples like you see below, where it's not a cheesy, kind of non-realistic background. It's just a photo booth looking background, or something white, or something easy that makes the vehicle pop and accents the vehicle photo. That got me thinking about things, because when I have conversations with dealers about should I put in a photo booth and should I not, there's a plethora of issues there. Not only is it the monetary investment to be able to build that out in your dealership, but there's also spatial limitations. You just may not have room to put a photo booth into your dealership. So using technology to kind of take the photo like you look at today, like you're seeing here at the top, and putting it onto a transposed background that's clean, easy to look at, became more interesting to me. And I wanted to quantify that. Just like I said at the beginning, is there an impact? Am I making an impact in terms of engagement or in terms of operational efficiency, different things of that nature? So I want to share you with that now, and this helped me kind of change my thinking on photo backgrounding. So the first thing I wanted to look at was from the consumer lens. So we went out and we talked to car shoppers. And we said, okay, let's show you some pictures of vehicles. Some of them are backgrounded, some of them aren't. And what is the appeal of those? And we looked at, on the left, a non-photo backgrounded photo, backgrounded with an overlay, and just a normal photo backgrounded image. And what you can see is, in terms of the extremely very appealing, you see a 15% jump from a non-backgrounded photo to a backgrounded photo. This is without them knowing it was backgrounded, so it seemed real. It seemed easier for them to engage on it. And I also wanted to then say, after they answered that question, now that you know it's a photo backgrounded photo, how does that impact the reality, the realness of the marketing and the perception on the dealership? And we saw that it didn't have any. In fact, it had a positive impact on the dealership, and so we drilled into that and we asked why. Why would that be more appealing and increase your perceptions? Well, sometimes when you're looking at a vehicle photo, as you see on this example, you see other cars. Maybe you see telephone poles. Maybe you see a gas station across the street. Again, as dealerships, we're dealing with a lot of spatial limitations. So it helps take out those distractions. Focus the car shopper on exactly what you want them to look at, exactly what they want to look at, which is the inventory. So really good data in terms of consumer perceptions on photo backgrounded images. And then when you go over, I wanted to quantify it further, similar to what we did with photos in terms of VDP increases. So again, late 2017, I looked at inventory with photos, but they don't have the photo backgrounded. And then I looked at the same set of inventory, or a similar set of inventory with the photos backgrounded. And similar, area, similar product tier on the advertising site, nothing to really skew the data. I wanted it to be apples to apples. What we saw was a little bit of a lift in real photos with backgrounds versus real photos without backgrounds. So backgrounded photos get 5% more conversions from the search results page to the vehicle details page compared to vehicles without photo backgrounds. So there's the consumer impact there, as well as the quantifiable engagement. That makes it worth thinking about. So if you don't have a photo booth and you're thinking about investing in it and you just don't think it's going to work out, there's technology out there that can help you with this problem.
Say, Russ, can you take a couple of questions from the audience at this point?
Absolutely, sure.
Okay, somebody says, is it better to have dirty or damaged trade-in photos or no photos at all?
Good question. And I think that's in the, I don't know if it's in the slide I covered, but it's in the case study. So, I'll make sure that you check out the Cox Auto website to get that. What the data is telling us is even if it's a photo that's not the highest quality, there needs to be a little bit of cleaning done, that performs better than no photo at all or a photo coming soon. Now, always use your discretion and judgment, you being there looking at the car. If it's banged up and the window's out and it really needs a lot of aesthetic work to make the car frontline ready, you don't want to take a photo of that. You may want to use a stock photo there. But if the car generally looks okay, no major dents, just a little bit of cleaning needed, our data tells us that will perform better than no photo at all.
Okay, well, and just to follow up on that, if there are dents, is it advisable to show them, just as being transparent to the viewer?
If you and most of the dealers I talk to are going to go back and they're going to do that work before they make it frontline ready. If they aren't going to do that work, then maybe that's something to consider. But if you're going to go and get rid of those damages and get the car frontline ready, no reason to show that. If when they're going to get in and test drive it, it's going to be fixed.
Okay. Also, somebody from a Ford dealership says, I work in Photoshop, but do you know the name of specific software to help put vehicles in a generic background? Yeah.
There are a few out there today. HomeNet does offer that solution. Been out in market for a little bit under a year now, so we do have technology there. A few other providers out there. I know my friends over at LotLinks have a capability. CarGG historically had that. Just a few providers.
Okay, just a couple more. Was this specifically new or used for background study, for the background study that you cited?
We looked at used cars.
Okay. And then somebody says, do you think it is better putting pictures coming soon, no picture, or not listing the vehicle at all, or the one real photo, kind of like Mannheim pictures when the vehicle may or may not be ready for 3 weeks because it may need body work? I think Mannheim has a program where, and you referred to, I think, is like you're marketing and merchandising the vehicle while it's being reconditioned. So, do you understand that question?
Can you say it one more time, Steve? I'm sorry.
Yeah. Do you think it is better putting pictures, quote unquote, coming soon, or not listing the vehicle at all, essentially? Okay,
so we're going back in terms of, I'm just going to put a generic graphic that says photos coming soon. That or not listing it at all. That's what we're talking about.
I think so.
Think so? Okay. So I think there's something in the middle there. With any kind of inventory tool that you're using today, there should be a stock photo option for you. So you don't have to do no photo at all or photos coming soon or not listed at all. There is that middle ground of using a stock photo. We want to use real photos of the inventory, but if you can't do that or there's going to be a time lag, you can use a stock photo. If it's between one or the other, I think you should get the cars online to get eyeballs to help accelerate vehicle turn. So I wouldn't like any of it, but I would lean towards the photo coming soon and just do a really great job with the vehicle description. Make sure you're pricing the car market-based so it at least gets a little bit of interest and maybe a phone call that you can get them some pictures or some videos in an expedited fashion. I would lean that way versus not listing it at all because you are taking on holding costs either way.
Yeah. And then the fellow that asked the question about the photoshopping and the software, he didn't hear what you said about the second software name. Was it Hot Lakes or Hot Links? He couldn't hear that.
LotLinks.
LotLinks. Oh,
yeah,
okay.
LOT.
Sure.
LOT, yeah, LotLinks. Yeah, I saw something come out from them not too long ago.
Okay, sure. And then one last question, and we'll get on with your presentation. Somebody says
I love the question.
Okay, great. A background for new seems to water down the differentiation between, say, all-white Camrys. Is there a fear of watering down the differentiation?
I wouldn't say it's a fear. I think that's a good point. I think that with the technology providers I just talked about, Steve, you can do different backgrounds on the different inventory. So if you want to do one in a photo booth, and then you want to do one that is maybe one of your dealership, you can vary up the backgrounds. I think if they are all consistent, you might run the risk of watering it down. The consistency could also help shoppers that like that. But I would say that's point taken. I think that's good thought, and that you can switch up the backgrounds even within your own inventory to differentiate it a little bit.
Gotcha. Okay. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, no problem. And thank you for the questions. And these are great ones. Keep them coming. Keep them coming. All right, let's go ahead and let's move on then. So let's move off of the whole photo concept for just a little bit, because there's more to it, right? When you think about the first thing a car shopper does, they're going to go and they're going to look at the photos. They're going to check out the video. If you're doing 360 spins, which I'm going to talk about, they may be looking at those. But then they want to go deeper into the experience. They want to understand the equipment. They want to understand the description of the vehicle. And this is where you want to complete the listing and have good listing quality. And a way to do that is, again, using technology and bringing in build data attributes directly from the OEM. And what I mean by that is installed options that don't come off of the standard VINDA code, color information that doesn't come off of the standard VINDA code. A lot of times installed option codes, they don't always live inside of the DMS system, so you might have to leverage other ways. And a lot of things I see today are dealers going in and manually adding the installed options inside of their inventory tool. But that's not always efficient, and that's taking you away from selling more cars and turning the inventory faster. So think about technology and think about build data, and there's a couple different ways I looked at it to quantify. First is what I just said, the operational efficiency. You're getting time back into your day. You're not going through and checking off a bunch of options. You're letting technology do that. And a lot of providers today, the companies I represent have that, others do as well. But there's also a quantifiable benefit in terms of exact style matches. And what I mean by that is, when you get a VIN and you decode it, the VIN decoding doesn't always capture every piece of the inventory. It doesn't have enough information off the VIN to say, this is the exact Chevy Silverado truck that is there on your lot right now. I need a little bit more information. Maybe I need installed options. Maybe I need even things like the color code and the model code, which will help me get all the way to an exact style match. And build data can help you do that. So what I looked at was across these major OEMs, where the exact match on VINDA code was before we added build data and then after. And what you see anywhere from 8.5% to 2% increase in exact style matches. So that keeps you more efficient, so you don't have to go and do it yourself. That increases the listing quality. It's more descriptive. It tells the story of that vehicle. And also there's a search relevancy play here. If you have the more descriptive inventory, you'll win in a search, both from an SEO perspective and from a third-party listing site. As they're starting to check off the options and the needs that they have for the inventory, if you have those things attached to your vehicle, you'll show up higher from a search perspective. So something to look at. The final piece here around that would be the options themselves, the installed options, really the core piece of the build data. And this goes right back to a key feature study that we did using Kelley Blue Book shopper data to kind of look at what are the top searched, the most compelling features that are on the inventory when they're shopping online. And some of these come off of a standard VINDA code, but not all of them do. Backup camera may not. Keyless access with push button might. Navigation may or may not come off of the standard options, but build data can come in and can help. So as you look at these, make sure that you have a strategy to either put build data on with technology, or if you're taking photos, make sure you're thinking about these options here, and you're capturing them within the stream. Smartphone app integration with Apple CarPlay, and the Android side of that as well. Really good ways to capture from a photo perspective, but also really good to have in your vehicle descriptions. And as you put this all together, kind of rounding out things that you can do today, here's kind of where I think we should all get to, which is operationally tracking online time to market in days, hours, and minutes to make sure we're staying efficient. This is an actual dealership that tracks it this way. They do it with a spreadsheet. So like a good marketer, I cleaned this up and made it into a slide for us to look at. And it's a 5-store dealer group in the Pacific Northwest. And what they're doing is they're looking at their photo, time to market, pricing time to market, description time to market, how long over a 28-day rolling average is their time to market, what are they doing in the current month, and what are they doing in the previous month. They're tracking that across their entire group in terms of averages, and they're looking at the individual stores. A couple things to call out here. One, you look at the description time to market, all zeros. That means they're using technology to generate a vehicle description automatically when the car hits the inventory system. So that's a good tactic to do. You can always go back and do custom copy afterwards, but not having the description may cost you some deeper engagement with the car shoppers. They're also using something like this to have really good quality conversations across their group. You know, hey, store 1 is doing okay. It's taking them 8 days to get a full set of photos on the inventory, but we got an over 5-day difference between dealer 1 and dealer 5. So what's going on across those different stores? How can we share best practices? How can we even think about sharing resources to make us more efficient in driving down time to market across the whole entire group? So just an interesting way to look at it and track it at your dealership. A lot of times it's manually done, but it's worth the time investment. And I'm actually seeing more and more. I just talked to a local dealer out here in PA that's doing this exact thing as well.
Well, Russ, what typically is going on when one dealership in a dealer group is taking so much longer than another dealer in the same dealership group?
Yeah. It can be probably one of two main categories: things you can control and things you cannot control. So if you can't control, kind of how the recon process is done, if you are using an outside company and they're coming in 2 to 3 days a week and you just can't keep up with the volume, if you're turning a lot of cars and getting a lot of cars back in off of trade, auction, or off lease, that could drive it down. Sometimes hard to control. There's also ones that you can control. And it's just about having something like this to work off of. Hey, I didn't even know this was taking as long as it was if I'm a general manager or a used car manager. So how can we kind of work as a team to drive this down and create new processes, adopt new technology that's easy, that we don't have to switch off of? How can we do this faster? Let's break down how we're doing it today. Let's compare it to how other stores in our group are doing it and see if there's some best practices we can grab from that.
Okay, and then attendee says, regarding the description time to market, what software technology are they using? Software that's accurate?
This specific group here. This one would be actually a combination. So combination of vAuto and HomeNet together. But when it comes to vehicle descriptions being automatically generated, any inventory tool under the sun has that capability today. And if they don't, you should definitely talk to them about doing that, because that's really crucial to getting the merchandising process started, leveraging technology that's easy to adopt.
All righty.
Great questions. Okay, so let's start looking forward. A couple more things to go through in terms of merchandising trends, marketing trends that I'm starting to see that I want to make you aware of if you aren't already. They're starting to hit the doorstep a little bit more, and I can see it growing over the next 6 to 12 months. The first thing is the emergence of social media as a way to advertise the inventory. Social media is obviously not new. It's been around for over 10 years. And car dealerships aren't new to social media. They've got, most dealerships have a business page, talk about promos in terms of service, other content about maybe some high-end inventory they got, a lot of Facebook business page management. Really good, really crucial to what I call social merchandising. But there's this growing trend of Facebook Marketplace and how Facebook is starting to look deeper into the marketplace and creating solutions to get more car dealer inventory onto that site. And if you look at the slide here, it's not super surprising. So you look at the quote that I got from the product manager for Facebook Marketplace, that autos is one of the most popular categories. Millions are looking at it every day. It's actually number 2. It's behind furniture. This was back in 2017. But they didn't have the inventory onto Facebook Marketplace. And for those of you that aren't familiar with that, the difference is you have a Facebook business page, and then you have kind of the marketplace. Think about it like a similar model to Craigslist, where there's inventory available, kind of like a listing site, almost like an Auto Trader or a Cars.com, where they can come in and shop for a bunch of different things, among automotive furniture, different things around the house, books, etc. And it's becoming more and more searched, and automotive is at the core of that. So what Facebook's starting to do is have conversations with different vendors that distribute inventory to get the inventory onto Facebook Marketplace. So, you may be working with a provider today that has this capability, or the capability is coming soon. So take a look at it, because there's eyeballs here that are looking, at Facebook, and they're looking in the marketplace for automotive. It's a growing trend. And my theory around this, I need to validate it a little more, is, for the generation that grew up with social media, maybe they did it while they were in their late high school years, getting into college, not as much disposable income. Fast forward to 10 years, they're in the workforce, unemployment's down, economy's going in a positive direction compared to where it was. Now they're starting to look at higher value assets, and they're doing them on sites that they're familiar with throughout their years, and Facebook is one of them. So take advantage of that growing trend and get the inventory on the marketplace. So then you think about marketplace, you think about social merchandising. We're really you're starting to talk now about personalized experiences, not having our consumer or car shoppers go out and find the inventory on various sites they may not be going to. And if they do get there, we want to make sure the experience is personalized to them. We need to start thinking about how we are putting our inventory in front of car shoppers, almost like marketers that have target personas, that have ideal types of shoppers that are looking at the inventory, and then within the website create personalized tools to be able to drill down to other cars on the website that may also be interesting for them. Because remember, they're going to less sites, spending less time in market, and spending overall less time. But research is a key component. So we need to start thinking about personalization. The technology is coming around, but as we're merchandising cars, start to think about how we want to specifically merchandise this car to an ideal target buyer. Another trend around personalization goes right back into the ongoing trend of digital retailing, whereas car shoppers want to complete some of the stuff they do in-store online now. And there's a lot of technology that's coming around to do digital retailing. And I know that I'm not going to spend a ton of time talking about digital retailing because this is about merchandising. But merchandising plays a key role to moving someone faster into the digital retailing experience. If they want to go in and take that next step, they've looked at they've obviously narrowed it down based on their price range and their model range. But then how do you win versus another dealership? Or how do you win versus another method for getting somebody into your showroom? It's going to be the photos, the videos, how the interactive media is there to really drive them deeper into the experience that make them take that next step of starting with the financing portion, completing a few of the steps online so they're more efficient when they get in the store. Now, it's not all bad and it's not all digital. The merchandising gets them there into the digital retailing experience, and then after that, you take it from there. Because what we found was they still want to finish the process in the dealership, and the staff, you, are still very important to completing that deal. But the merchandising is how you start to get that process started to even make them make that time investment into the digital retailing experience.
Well, and I think as your second statistic points out, the staff is more a consultant and less of a salesperson. Not that you don't do the sale or you completely ignore that part, but with the shopper doing so much online, in some respects they're looking for confirmation of their decision, and that's what they're turning to the staff for, as well as other things, but not necessarily to familiarize them with the car from A to Z because they've already done that.
Sure. Yeah, good point. And I think that, let's remember what we're selling here, right? I mean, in someone's typical life, the most expensive asset they'll invest in is their home, and then the second one is a vehicle. And they want to make sure they have the right vehicle. They want to talk to an expert that's going to help them move along. So, Steve, I think you hit it right on the head. Being more of a consultant is where I see things going in terms of in-store, and I think that's great, and I don't think that'll evolve, but I don't think that'll change drastically moving forward.
And I think quote-unquote salesperson would prefer being more of a consultant and less of a salesperson. It's more fun, somebody once said.
And it shows their value, too, and their expertise. I mean, the car shopper knows most about that piece of inventory before they get there. They've looked on, the sites they've looked on. They've done their research. They come in. They want to test drive it, but they also want to figure out what they don't know, what they didn't get from that listing online. So that's where the person inside of sales, the person inside of the dealership can be extremely important.
For sure.
So I touched a little bit on interactive content or interactive media. And, there's a couple avenues to that. Video is one of them. Video is still important and is actually growing in terms of car shopper engagement. What we saw from that same Power of Pictures case study is vehicles with video get 19% more VDP views than inventory without video. And you can do video in a number of different ways. You can do a stitched video, and if it's a really hot piece of inventory or something that's worth the time investment, you can do a walk around of the vehicle. But there's other technologies as well, and you're starting to look at it here. 360 capture technology. So this is where you're now, as a car shopper, interacting with the vehicle. You're clicking on it and you're spinning it around. You're zooming in. You're looking at the pieces that you want to look at. It's a growing piece of technology, and I'm seeing more and more dealers adopt. And it's not too much different than other verticals. Obviously, Zappos did that with their shoes and their merchandise. That's a lower-priced asset. But these things have been around in the real estate space for several years now, and we're starting to see it in automotive, which is really strong. But like everything I talked about today, I want to do some quantifying. So we went inside and we looked at what are some pieces of merchandising that are extremely important in terms of moving you forward into getting into the showroom, test driving that car, and completing that sale. And you can see video, I touched on that, but interactive photos of the vehicle, which when we drilled in and said, what did you really mean by that? They meant 360 spins, are becoming extremely important in terms of them moving forward. So if it's something you're considering, it's something that you have adopted today, really good. If it's something you're considering, you're okay too. Keep considering it. It's something that is growing. And we wanted to go deeper then into 360 capture and talk about consumers and how they kind of wanted to interact with these things. Because, again, it's very new. So did you want to land on a vehicle details page and have the 360 just start spinning? Or did you want to click and open a tab? We wanted to get into the experience and how they wanted to see it. And you can see in terms of, especially on the dealership website, they want to be able to pop out and see it on a search results page so they can move from vehicle to vehicle instead of it just being on the vehicle details page. And if it is on the vehicle details page or the search results page, they want to be able to control the rotation, so don't just spin it by default. Have a little call to action that says 360, click here and rotate it, and also have it as from a full screen perspective, so they can get really deep and immersive with it. It's good because they can connect with the inventory, and it's really good so they can really zoom in and see those pieces. The more engaged they are, the more invested they're going to be in on the inventory, move them forward in the process. So as we kind of bring this thing home, I wanted to leave you with something I think we all should be considering. And I don't think a lot of us are today at the deep level that this study that I'm about to go over shows, but I don't think we're far off. But we need to start getting there. What I'm going to leave you with today is a study that was done by SpeedShift Media, a research company out of Canada. And when I was at Driving Sales last year, I saw this presentation and just light bulbs just went off for me, and I'm like, we gotta tell our dealers about this. So what they did was they wanted to look at some different traditional forms of what we thought was leads or engagement across a vehicle details page. And they tracked that for about 50,000 vehicles for over 100 dealerships across the country, and they tracked it over 6 months. And every click on the VDP view was mapped to one of the categories that I'm going to go over. You've got your traditional forms or leads. You've got media, so that's photos, videos, 360. You've got other external links like Carfax and other content about the cars. You've got the text and the chat, and messenger that everybody adopts. Social sharing as well. And then there was irrelevant clicks that just didn't do anything. And what they wanted to look at was over the course of time, from when the car arrives online to when it was sold, is the frequency of interaction within these elements, is it correlating to the vehicle actually selling? Because if you get a lead where you start to chat with somebody, maybe you think, okay, that means they're close to coming in, and that correlates to them coming in and you getting them into that car, test driving, and selling the vehicle. Well, the results were actually a lot different than what I originally thought. And what we saw was, you see the solid blue line, the only one that increases closer to the vehicle sale date is media engagement. The more photos, the more videos, the more they interact with the actual visualization of the car, that was the only thing they could correlate to. The more they do it, the closer the car is to selling. When you look at all of these other elements, chat, social sharing, forums, I'm not saying they aren't important. They are absolutely important and you need them. But what we're seeing is they might submit about some information on the car or chat, but that doesn't mean they're coming in anytime soon. Using myself as an example, again, I bought a car 2 months ago. I did some chatting and texting back and forth with the sales representative or the consultant, as Steve and I were talking about it, a couple weeks before I went in and test drove and rode that and got in that vehicle and bought it. Just wanted to get some other information, maybe schedule at some point for me to come in, maybe look for other available cars. I wasn't quite ready yet. But those days leading up to me going in and buying that car, I found myself looking at the photos more, engaging in the video, trying to create that experience in my head through the merchandising to get myself ready to go in and purchase that car. So as we talk about...
One of the attendees, speaking of engagement with the video, one of the attendees says, could you repeat the percentage of engagement with the videos that you had mentioned?
Oh, sure. Okay, from the previous slide. So vehicles with videos get 19% more VDP views, 19, than vehicles without videos.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So what does this tell us to kind of round it all out? A lot of us today are tracking engagement based off of search results pages and vehicle details pages. And I think that's a good start, and that's where we are as an industry. But as we evolve, we need to start looking deeper. Not just at search results pages and vehicle details pages for inventory, but the engagement within the vehicle details page. How much are they interacting with my video? How much engagement are my photos getting? And we see that trend up. That tells you that that vehicle is getting closer to sell. So as the cars age and we have a pricing strategy to maybe move it into the wholesale space or reduce on price to get eyeballs, as we start to go deeper into VDP and search results page metrics and get into media engagement metrics, it can help you make better decisions around price, better decisions around disposal, and maximize that margin, maximize that inventory turn, and get more revenue, obviously leading to profitable growth for your dealership. So again, at the end of the day, what we can focus on is shortening the time, enhancing the listings with quality photos, with backgrounding, descriptions with build data, driving things into the VDP, remembering that the window of opportunity is shrinking today for us. Then looking forward, let's start to think about personalized content. Let's think about social media as a way to not just tout our dealership, but also advertise and sell our inventory. And then look deeper into our metrics in terms of engagement of our inventory, thinking about media engagement as a key piece for selling the inventory. So that's what I have for everybody today. Again, great questions. I know, Steve, we're close to the top of the hour. Maybe we have time to just sneak a quick question in.
Yeah, let's do a lightning round of questions. That was a great presentation. Somebody says one of the larger concerns about video enhancing with a more personalized experience is the bogging down of the website and possibly frustrating the customer. What tools or advice do you recommend in ensuring the best possible experience on the site?
Specific to video, right, Steve?
Yes, and things like that where you're enhancing a more personalized experience.
Well, I think that what our research is telling us is it's great to have it available, and let's have, if you're on your website, let's have links out to the video, maybe links out to the 360 that open up in just a little bit of a different experience. So they choose to they choose to get into that experience. And it's easy for them to get back to where they were before, which is on the search results page. On a vehicle details page on your website or on a third-party listing site, again, let's have links and let's have tabs. Let's have things kind of available to them, and then they want to go engage with that. Let's make it easy for them to do that instead of throwing a bunch of things in their face. We want to start with the photos. We want to start with some level of visualization, but we don't need to throw too much of them at once. So let's pick one. Let's pick photos or let's pick video. Let's put that right in front of them on our VDPs and let them opt in and engage with it. That's my answer there.
Okay. And then somebody else says basically the guest wants to shorten the time at the store, and that's so true. I think they have a higher tolerance if they feel the time spent is valuable. If it's wasted, then there's zero tolerance. So everybody's on the lookout to avoid that. Somebody asked, in the video, is it just a walk around, or does the person doing the video actually describe the features as well?
That stat is videos altogether, and you see pretty much two different types of videos. You see a slideshow video, which is the most efficient for the dealership because you got to shoot photos. So a slideshow will take those photos, kind of whirl them around in a slideshow, and then add some text-to-speech, add some commentary and some features. That's what you see mostly, and then you also have live video walk-arounds that are the actual someone with a camera walking around, filming the car. Those are extremely compelling those are extremely compelling overall. Not always feasible, especially if you have a large used car, new car base on your lot. So I would say pick the most valuable ones and try to pick those off from a live video perspective. But the data I told you wasn't specific to live video or slideshow. It was a combined of both. Okay,
and we'll just go a couple minutes longer to get into some of these questions. Do you recommend a vAuto dealership use additional build data resources, and what resources do you recommend?
Yeah, I do recommend that. I know the technology is going that way. I think that's just going to help, especially on the new car side, understand how the market is pricing the inventory based off of those feature sets, and help you make a better decision about how you want to price that car to market using the traditional metrics of market day supply and dealer day supply, things of that nature. But if you can get more specific about the cars out in market compared to your competition, it'll just help you stay a little bit ahead. I would say definitely on the new car side, something to consider.
Okay. And do you think the stats you went over are comparable for a subprime dealer versus a prime dealer?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I mean, for sure. We didn't look at just franchise dealers when we did any of this work. There was independents, buy here, pay here's, and subprime in there as well. I think that, merchandising is a great landscape to compete on if you're any size dealership, because it's your chance to compete with the main franchise dealers that may have a little bit of a bigger spend. If you're taking the right photos, if you're creating the right level of merchandising, can help you win a click over somebody else. So I definitely think they're comparable and something that you should kind of rank yourself up against if you're any type of dealer.
Okay, and suggestions on how to measure the engagement in the VDP. Is this information available through a report from vAuto?
So we've got search results pages and vehicle details page metrics in there today, and that's really good. There's a couple other ones specific to media sites, like AutoTrader, that will track some activity inside of it. I think that where we are today, because remember when I was talking about the speed shift study, this is a little bit of things we want to look at moving forward. If you're measuring on search results pages and vehicle details pages today, that you're good, you're doing it the right way. I think as we progress and move forward, more reporting will come out as the technology evolves around what's happening after the vehicle details page comes in. So I'll say stay tuned for that across the board, and it's something we want to think about measuring ourselves on in the near future. And specific to video, though, I'll say real quick, Steve, in regards to video, I talk to a lot of video providers. I know a lot of the guys that are running those companies today, and they have really good reporting in terms of views, percentage of the video viewed, where it's being viewed from. There's really good stuff there in terms of the video space. A little bit in for 360 as well. We need to bring those worlds together and create something more comprehensive. But if you use a couple different providers and look at the reporting there, or ask them about reporting they can provide you, you may be able to get ahead of the curve.
Okay. And then final question, or sort of a comment actually. Do you truly believe most customers want to finish the process at the dealership? This person says, I think Carvana is proving that may be incorrect.
I still think so. I still think that a majority still want to go back and complete it online, or complete it in the store, start online, complete it in the store. I see that in the data.
The number you referenced was a survey of people saying that, so it wasn't really wasn't the company asserting that. Yeah, so that's what they're saying in the survey. But I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt your thought.
Not a problem at all. And Carvana's doing some really interesting stuff right now, and they're expanding, but it's still smaller compared to the franchise dealer base. There's a lot more of those. I think back to our conversation before, outside of just the quantifiable data I showed, just that expertise at the dealership is something that that is still out there and still desired. And I would even say myself that I'm living proof. I guess you could classify me as a millennial, a little bit of a very early millennial, but even on newer used car, I still want to go in, touch the car, talk to the dealership about it, understand warranty, understand some other options deeper, title transfers, things like that. I still want to have an expert go help me walk through that. So that's what I'd say there. Okay,
great. And last comment from the audience. Somebody says, "Nice job, Russ. You've come a long way, baby." So I don't know who that is, but
thank you.
I'm sure you do. Okay,
I probably do.
We've gone 6 minutes over. I think it was worth it. A lot of great questions and a lot of great answers. I'd like to thank Russ Daniels and HomeNet, and I'd especially like to thank the audience for being with us today. Thanks again, and have a wonderful day, everybody.